believe that anybody in the NFC East is going to the playoffs?
I'm glad I'm not the Eagles.
I am I'm an Eagles fan as well.
I
I mean, you lost to the Cowboys lost to the Washington football team 25-3, so.
I don't think I've ever watched a team as bad as the 1980s Tampa Bay Buccaneers until yesterday when I watched the Cowboys. I mean, they are awful. Absolutely. And you can just tell they've raised a white flag. And whenever a quarterback got hit, not one of our players came to his defense. Now, normally, it's on then. And they would offer up all these platitudes. Well, we didn't want to get kicked out of the game. You were losing 27-3. It's not like you were in the game to begin with. I think we've officially raised the white flag.
Well, I do know that return from Byron Pringle is almost.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not a Broncos fan.
Yeah.
But to watch old K-State alone. 102-yard kickoff return.
I like the Chiefs now that Andy Reid is there, but that's the only. He was at Philadelphia for 12 years.
Yeah.
I think he's a great guy. Half the coaches in the league have taught under him at some point in time.
Mm-hmm.
You got to give it to him. He gets his players to play for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just such a good, like a down-to-earth guy.
Yeah.
He's just a good dude. They were asking him when he won the division. Was it the division game or was it the conference game when they were going to the Super Bowl? I think it was. They asked him what his celebration plans were, and he was like, I'm going to take my wife out for a cheeseburger, and we're going to go home. He was just a down-to-earth dude.
Yeah. Alrighty, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes? I had one just small typo correction to them. Motion to approve.
So,
Moved by Gail.
Second. Of the typo.
Second by Darren. The typo. All in favor? Right. Motion passed. Sheriff's report. I did talk to Cody today. He had to run up north of Bird and hated to have to drive back with the snow and ice, and so he will be here at the next meeting to give his monthly report.
Does he want to just come, like, be on the agenda at the first meeting of the month? That might
I'll
work
check
good
with
for
him and see,
him.
because I think he's like, if not, then I just give a half-month report, and
Right.
where, we could just do the first meeting of the month. Yep. I'll check with him and see.
Okay.
And then I did ask him about the film crew, and next door, he's been in contact with them. So there's a few file cabinets to move out, and they were going to get some cleaning up done. So, and then the only issue was the evidence that's over there, because he said we have to get a court order to move it, and so we might as well, like, what evidence they can destroy and get rid of, do at that time than to get the order to move it and then have to go through the court process to get an order to destroy. So
Right.
he thought what they could destroy and get rid of, they would try to do instead of trying to move it and then get that second order. So he said they do have to go through the court to get approval to move it.
Are they going to allow the film crew in there with that evidence in there?
And I don't know, when is the film crew coming?
I thought they were coming this week.
Are they? I'll have to double check with him. He didn't seem like it was an issue. So.
Okay. Cool.
Anyways, that's all that I got from Cody. So, Bob, you're up.
Okay. The VFW is wanting to put up a Veterans Memorial. And that's kind of the shape it'll be. Like to have a place in the park here to, if you guys got a chance to see the flag that was up there last week. They were moved and I went to take them off, so I don't know how long it's been.
June knows the mayor has some information on that, and so I think we would call him.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
Now there was two places we had marked out, and one place we all thought would be a nice place and we could do it, but, it's in that water fountain, and this is, kind of, you can pass on the different pictures, they're correspond, the yellow corresponds to white on that, just kind of where the benches are gonna sit. Be similar to that, they won't be the same.
And this in the middle, what is that?
That's gonna be the kiosk where all the names of veterans are. Gonna be a hexagon, and hopefully we can get some aluminum sheets and then, Caltrate could, mark sign or cut sign names in them.
Well, I figured all the names would be on all sides.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but right there in the entrance, the front one, we're aiming to put,
Nancy?
Medal of
Scott?
Honor and
Yes.
MI.
Are you there?
field of MIAs,
All right, hey Nancy.
and then
Hi,
all of them all the way
here he
around.
is.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey Scott,
Yeah.
we've got Bob Ogden here. He gave us kind of a design of what their Veterans
Yeah.
Memorial will be.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I kind of know what they're planning on. So forth, I haven't seen everything, but I kind of know what they're planning on doing. Kind of an octagon structure with a roof over the top and stuff. So.
Mhm.
So, anyway, I guess, maybe to kind of go over, I did get in touch with Great Site today because of, the status of, our historic, registry deal. And of course, it involves the fountain and the seats and the, pedestals in all the corners. And, so I think we're stuck with not being able to put anything in that area. And then I know that one spot we was talking about, we might have to even consider a different location yet. Clear over in the northeast corner would be no problem whatsoever. And Greg was wondering about the spot that I thought was a good spot that might not be so good because he said it might make the park look like we're just throwing things here and there and everywhere. And so I kind of understand that theory of it too. And so, as far as the rest of the council, myself, I totally believe that this is a very worthwhile project and we need to have it somewhere. And so I think, we just got to determine where that spot's going to be, or if we can figure out 2 or 3 other options, just let them know where the options are, and let's let them run with it and get it up, because I think it is a very worthwhile project. And Great Kite is willing to, and talking about that, that's why I called him. He is very willing to work with the city again on getting some grant money for restoring the seating area and the fountain. And so that's something that we need to start visiting more about and moving forward with.
Greg, is John Beer's son that helped with the?
Yeah.
Around the fountain area?
No. Mr. Keels.
Yeah, this is Greg Kite. He graduated from St. Francis in '71, and he did all the work he did all the grant work for the courthouse on the front steps to get historical steps put back like they should have been with those steps, and then also with the band shell. And we just kind of went through the first phase on the band shell. We had our phase of doing the inside of the band shell, which there is some really neat paintings in there and stuff. But I told Greg I was more concerned about getting the outside things up to par before we ever start anything on the inside. And that could be 10, 15, 20 years down the road. I don't know how long it would be. But I thought we need to get our seating and that fountain the pedestals on the corners there where the sidewalks are, get all that stuff refurbished before we ever do the stuff inside. And he kind of agreed with that.
You talking about Greg Kite?
Yes, great fight, yes.
And Bob, when were y'all thinking about the memorial being placed exactly?
Well, we had,
Well, after visiting Great Fight, he thinks we should go over in the northeast corner, and that would be, that, and I know that that's not where the veterans, the VFW wants to put it, because it does kind of put it on the backside of the park, but yet I mean, there'd be a nice room over there for it, right in that northeast corner, really good room over there, and it'd be very easily accessible, that tree stuff, but I think maybe we ought to look at, talk it over about other options too, and then figure out where it'd be, but I think we need to let them say yes, go ahead and go forward with it, start raising their money and everything, and then we'll get a spot for it, because I really do think we need to have it.
So this has a roof over
yeah,
it?
it'd be similar to the one out on the state line, over that
Yeah.
Okay.
gazebo.
Yeah.
Where does the VFW want it?
Well, we'd like to have it just, actually, the first choice is west, or north of the park, fountain.
North of the town.
There's that walk coming up to the north and right on the side of it.
Yeah.
And then we thought about in front of them pine trees, or in the center of one of the pine trees.
On the north of those pine
Yeah,
trees?
where the rocks are on the rock wall and up
Uh-huh.
on that ledge.
On the east side of the sidewalk, or on the west side of the sidewalk.
Yeah, we're taking either side of the sidewalk.
I could see the east side, I can't see the west side because that area is used a lot for concerts, activities, it's been used for bike rally. I think that would be some lost space. Scott's actually talking about the northeast corner of the park?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what Greg was talking about today, and I can see his point, but I would agree with Bob and everybody else, right up there just northeast of the fountain, and right in that spot. But Greg was thinking that kind of throws out the balance of the park.
How big is this?
Because all of a sudden we have a
12?
structure
Oh,
right
it's not
there,
that big at all.
and we don't have anything.
It's 12 foot size.
I think the whole
20
thing on
about
South
24
Park,
by
I was
24
thinking.
24 across? Okay.
Scott, I came in late, but has anybody mentioned possibly replacing the fountain?
I can't.
It's tied in with the band shell.
We're gonna have to refurbish the fountain, and that's why Greg's ready to run with this again, and he would write grants up for us, pro bono again, and he would do all that legwork for us and stuff. He said the maximum grants are $90,000 at a time, and they give out those awards. Well, they have to have them in by November 1st, which this isn't going to happen till next year. And we do have, Lila said we have like almost $30,000 in our account for this project, for the band show and that. And he said usually on a $90,000 grant, we have to put up $15,000. So we could almost do two $90,000 grants. We'd have to do them that separate years and go forward with it. And I'm pretty sure the CD and that fountain is going to cost quite a bit of money. And so,
Hey, Scott, does that also include the new, I don't even know what you call it, the fountain itself? I mean, I hate to say if we do the fountain and the water still trickles out of it like it does now. You know what I'm saying?
Part of the problem was because it used to be full of water, and insurance says you can't have it full of water because of the liability if somebody drowns in it. And so that's why but I think you could probably get
Have it
something that would
recycle.
spray up maybe a little bit
Yeah,
bigger.
the spray would
and
be
then-
nicer.
Yeah,
Because maybe that water gets recycled, I don't know.
And I even wondered about if you could
Cap it somehow.
Yeah.
raise it up and put like some water plants on the top of it and still have it spray and recycle as opposed to going, you know.
I just would hate spending $90,000 to remodel that thing and you still have those water coming out. It looks silly.
Well, and if you ever saw the pictures of the old fountain, there's rocks laid up in the center of the fountain. They go up about, I'd say almost 6 feet in the air. There's rock that's laid in the center of the fountain going up with the fountain up to the top there that trickled down over those rocks. And there used to be goldfish in there back in the day, and we always reached down in there trying to catch the goldfish and stuff. But, I mean, I think the guy can make it to where you just put a sump pump right down to the bottom where there's only maybe 2 inches of water, and it would keep pumping and just not ever have a bunch of water in there. Because it used to be probably about 2 feet deep.
Is that through the park over there?
Yeah.
You can see where it's
Can we pull it off the wall?
Yeah.
So I can show you where they're at, where they've laid it out.
Why can't we put it along Washington in that next section?
Did
west
you
of
guys,
the flag?
everybody see this?
Yeah.
They laid theirs out, there's one spot right in here,
Yeah.
on the east side of the walk, and then there's one spot in here in front of these pine trees. What Scott's talking about is clear over here.
Yeah.
behind
The issue,
That's completely hidden.
yeah, the issue I have is something as important as a memorial like that.
Right.
I think it ought to be seen from the main road.
Why not the
Yeah.
opposite side there, Larry?
Huh?
Why not the opposite side?
Well,
Like
you
in the
got
center.
flag over there, you got the concrete flag. over
Well, no,
there.
the next section,
On the other side of the sidewalk.
along Washington, right there.
Over here?
Yeah.
I think having it over there by the flag makes sense.
That would look nice. You'd see the flag, you'd see the memorial. There's plenty of room. And we're only talking about 24 feet. That's not that big, 24-foot circle.
And we could put it close enough to sidewalk, wouldn't it be sidewalk?
I think our residents thinking we're trying to hide it.
But this over here
You'd
is
have-
for everybody.
You'd have to have a sidewalk to access it though.
Well,
that's
you got
okay.
Sidewalks along here.
I mean,
You
sidewalk
put it in
doesn't
here,
cost
you
that
put it
much.
close enough to sidewalk, this is short sidewalk coming off that one.
Yeah.
And I think, well, this has got a ramp on, I think that's got a ramp on it there.
Where was or have they decided, kind of, the statues that they were,
Would there be a spot up there, say, right?
heritage
I
statues?
haven't heard any more about that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right where, Scott?
Well, I'm wondering if there'd be a spot where the cement flag is, to the east and north of the cement flag right in there, before it gets to the big evergreen trees, would there be a spot right there?
I don't think so. I don't think
No,
there's
there's not
enough
much
room.
room.
Eliminate flag, it's okay, you just.
The trees are too big there, I think, Scott.
Yeah, I'm not sure how
If you
much.
go east and north, like right here is where he's talking.
I think if you just go due west of that flag,
Like straight west of the flag,
Yeah.
across the sidewalk into that next section, along Washington, that'd be a great spot. Really good visibility,
yeah, you see it from the main road.
and there's already 2 benches there along the sidewalk, so you could put the sidewalk in between there,
Well, that's what he's talking to Greg.
and then have all the extra seating.
But that, as far as Greg going to be concerned, it'd be, putting it there would be the same as putting it over here. It's just gonna take away from,
Take away from what?
well, he thought it'd throw the looks of the park
Balance
off by putting it too close to it.
The historical,
Would you guys have an issue with it
Character.
being right there off the main road?
Over here,
Right.
that'd be fine, yeah.
I mean, if you look at it,
Pardon?
I mean, like the stuff down here.
I mean, what are we talking about throwing off here?
the
I mean, it
historical
kind of
character,
balances from here to
how it
here,
used to
look at it
look,
that way, but.
because it's on the historical registry.
Right.
Another thought would
What
be,
they're saying is, you know,
we've got like the Glenn Swiggert's artwork there, and it's all on the west side. Maybe if we kept it to the west and said that all the, because there is also Tim Riley with the German Heritage, they're wanting to put up the bronze statue of some kind too, and keep all that kind of stuff to the west side of Salt Hill Park, so interfere with any view of the fountain, the band shell, the cement flag, that kind of stuff. If we kept everything to the west, it would keep it away from any of the historic parts of the park, as far as the fountain and the band shell.
Yeah, that triangle on the right there,
In there?
the next one over to your right.
Oh, this one?
That one,
Yeah,
yeah,
right here.
along Dennison,
Yeah.
that triangle there.
Right in that area, maybe put it down there. It'd be real visible too.
Yeah, there's lots of room there too.
Yeah.
Plus, there's a nice entrance
It's
to
still
the park
visible.
there.
Yeah, you
Watch
can
this.
see it.
Oh,
With the
yeah.
ramp sidewalks.
And then
For
in the
disabled.
Look at all of our photos out there.
That's
of the park,
doable.
and we've got from the west, like the band shell and the fountain, and you need to block that, I think, because I mean, that's what we advertise for every year. We have that picture of the band shell from the west, and I don't know.
Well, you can always choose a different vantage point, I guess, kind of.
Which I guess as far as tonight goes, we're in agreement that to move forward with it, we don't
Yeah.
have to pick an exact spot right
Yeah,
tonight,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
most definitely,
We need approval to start with something, so.
yeah.
And it's
I
not
think
there.
everybody on the council and myself would agree that it is a very worthwhile project and we need to have it. We just got to decide on what is going to be what we consider the best location to not interfere with the historic part of the Bandshell Park area, but yet have it in the park where it's visible. And so,
And I
like I
guess
said,
the other point is the city doesn't own it, so we probably need permission from the county since it is county-owned before we move
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
I mean, that would, like, we don't want to say, yes, we'll do it, and then it's county-owned, and the county say, no, we don't want to do it. So I guess that would be
Yeah. I think
probably
we
the
should-
first step
Yeah.
is to make sure that the county commissioners are okay with
I don't think they got in there.
putting something in their park
Yeah.
that we lease.
we better run it by them before we ever start anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sure that we can come up with a spot for them, and so I know they want to get started raising funds and trying to figure out what it's going to cost to do this project. So I think if we all agree that, yes, we're going to find a spot for them,
Here you go.
that
You got that?
No, I
they
don't
can start
think so.
moving forward, and then we'll find that spot, and then that's where we have it put then.
If not up here, roadside park up there, just to the west of the church, there's a spot in there that might be
Yeah.
able to.
An open lot there.
And we've talked a
I
little
think
bit that we
it'd be
could,
It'd be nice.
we could do something, it would be nice down here, but it would be visible from the highway up
Yeah.
there, and then we could rename that Veterans Memorial Park instead of Roadside Park, and
Yeah.
then actually name it. If we could find a spot up there, if, this doesn't work down here,
Yeah.
but that would be something where we would just rename it
From an aerial,
Veterans Memorial Park.
from the aerial views, like a folded flag triangle.
But yeah, I think most definitely, but I think before we,
Yeah, I
the
understand.
city's in agreement with it, but I think we better check with the county since they actually own the property, if we want to put something in the park there.
And when do you need to have an answer as far as, you said you gotta get going on it?
Well, we would like to start getting
Yesterday?
get designed and start raising money. We need to know,
Okay.
We hate to start raising money and then not be able to do it.
Okay.
Are these benches inside the structure?
Mm-hmm.
Inside.
There's mark on that.
On the slab.
They're right here.
Oh, you got that. This is the corner post, so you're.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
I do too, but I think
Yeah.
if we're thinking about putting it in the park down here, would better
Yeah.
at least run it by the commissioners
Right.
and get approval from the county. And like if you guys are willing to think about even roadside parking.
Well, we thought of that place up there too.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta think down here brings more people downtown maybe, but
Yeah, true.
It's-
Yeah.
something we like everybody to be able to see. If you go up there with a building, more people seeing it, so.
Yeah.
You probably get used more down here.
Amanda,
Yes.
when do the commissioners meet again?
They meet Friday.
This Friday?
Uh-huh. I mean, I could probably get on the agenda if you wanted me to. Mm-hmm.
That'd be good.
Well, that would probably be good. I don't know if I better, I talked to the health nurse today, and she said that after Friday, I could probably release myself, so I probably better not, release myself until after Friday, but, Nancy and I are both feeling fine. There's no problem through it. We just was exposed when we went to the doctor's office is all, so, yeah, I think it'd be great to, check with them, and maybe Bob would want to come along too, and, so that they know what's going on and just present it to them and tell them this is what we're thinking of.
What's your phone number, Bob?
0368.
0368. I'll get on the agenda and find out what time, and I'll call you tomorrow and let you know, and then you and I can go and talk to the commissioners and just make sure that they're in agreement if we want to do something down in this park, since they own it, but the city leases it, so like where we don't own it, we want to make sure that they're in agreement with it. So, yep, I'll just call you tomorrow, and we can go to the commissioners together. And so,
Thanks for taking the lead on this.
yeah, sure.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Scott, are you?
And then going back to this, stuff on the band shell,
See you, thanks. Yep.
Back to the
stuff on the band shell, we just need to, if everybody's in agreement to start looking into that, we just need to, keep in touch with Greg and get something rolling on that, so that we can start having things ready to have it, so he can get the grant moved up for it. And, of course, they wouldn't have to be in by November 1st, so we're talking November 1st of 21, and I think it's probably right after the first of the year, so it's probably sometime in January of 22 before we even know we got grant money to work on that stuff. But I think we need to fix something and get started if that's what everybody agrees on.
I agree, and if we can get some funding for the seating and start to get that done, and then work on the fountain and inside and start getting things. I mean, like you and I talked earlier today, Scott, we're just utilizing it more and more, and I think the more it's being utilized, first of all, the seating for the people that are there, but then also fixing the inside up too. I think it's
Inside's going to be a big project.
yeah, but I think the seating is probably the first and foremost that we need to work on, is the seating, and then try to keep
I think
moving forward.
seating first, and then see how far that money goes, and then the second phase would be to do the fountains and all the pedestals that are out by the streets there that come in, and refurbish them and stuff. That fountain's going to take a lot of work too, but I think I hope $90,000 grant would do the seating in it, but I don't know if it will. I don't know. That's kind of a different type of structure on how it's built and stuff, but and finding the right people to do that and do it the right way. So.
But you did say there's a possibility we could do two $90,000 grants if we needed it?
Yes, yes, because we can only apply for 90,000 at a time.
Okay.
So I suppose we're going to apply for a third one too, if like, right, Scott? Like every year we could apply for 90,000.
Yeah, I think you can. I think if you keep applying for it, you just got to match some funds to it.
Yeah.
We've got almost enough funds to do two $90,000 deals. We would have to come up with much more if it's only going to be $15,000 for 90,000. I think, let's get started with something and get something rolling.
That's $90,000 per calendar year?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the city area is going to be a whole lot more than what a guy would think it's going to be.
I do too.
I think it's going to be every bit of 90,000.
Yeah.
I do too, but we won't know until we get into it, and then we're going to have to get somebody that's knowledgeable enough to understand what we're gonna have to do to it, to make it work. And I don't know if we've got anybody around our area. Greg said we can use local people now, and used to we couldn't. But yet, I don't see too many local people wanting to take on that kind of a project. And so we're just going to have to figure out where we can find somebody with some expertise on how to restore the seating area.
Yeah.
So I guess that's something that we can put on our list and get started on it. And the sooner we get somebody out to look at it, at the different structures, let them look at everything, the fountain and the seating and pedestals and all that stuff, and then start working on a plan.
Okay.
Scott, do you know, did JR ever talk to Brock at all about the seating?
Brock just never came up with anybody that the sandblasted. We had that one fountain from Goodland that was $6,000-7,000 just to go in there and try to sandblast it. And then we'd have to do repair work, which that's fine. Somebody's going to have to sandblast it first. Then there's going to have to be a bunch of repair work. And then I think we never spray any kind of a texture type material on that again, because that held water. And we need to just paint it with some kind of a surface where the water will run off and not stay on there, because with that rough texture, the water just stayed on there all the time and just held water. So, but like I said, we need to probably get somebody with a little bit of expertise, but that sure helps us out if we can get $90,000 to go toward that project that we've been wanting to do instead of out of our own pocket.
Mm-hmm. I agree. If we can get some grant funding, that would be nice to put towards it.
And if it ran, say like if it came in at 110, 120,000, I don't know what would come in at, we might be able to check with the local foundation and stuff on a project like this. They might be willing to help out on something. I don't know. It's for the benefit of the community, so they might be willing to help with some too. I mean, I don't want to go to that resort until we have to.
Even the Hanson.
Yeah,
Hanson, yeah.
Hanson also, yeah. So I think we just get started, and until we get somebody out there to start putting some numbers together, and usually when they do those numbers on these, and that's one thing that probably burned us on the fan shell. Seems like the numbers are really high, but then those guys all came from across the other end of the state. They came from Fort Scott area down there, and they worked for 3 days and be gone. They come back and work for 3 days, and it just seemed like we spent a lot of money for people to be traveling back and forth, and I mean the work that we got good work on the scuffle part of it and stuff and everything, but I think things could be a lot cheaper if we could get somebody within a 30 to 60 mile radius to come in and do work.
Yeah, for sure. That mileage probably ate up a lot of it.
How long would it take to sandblast that whole thing?
I don't know how long.
Scott, how long do you think it would take to sandblast the whole thing?
I don't know. Some of it would come off real easy, and then I think some of it's going to be really hard coming off. You got to get underneath of it and get started. But there's areas where it's not going to take much to get it off, and areas it might take them. I think that Bauman was guessing a week.
Yeah, it's going to tear up a lot of concrete too.
Maybe that's something one of our local guys could go right from Denver for a week and bring it here. I know that's going to be around the labor, but it'd be cheaper to hire someone from there to come back and forth that with all the labor.
And then I think you got to be careful on how you do sandblast, because I don't know if you want to actually use sand, because sand will chew it up and eat it up worse. And I think that's what Bauman was trying to do, is figure out whether he was using walnut shingles or they use all kinds of different products to sandblast nowadays and so forth. So I think we just got to get somebody in with a little bit of expertise how to get it started.
Well, I think we're on the right track with trying to get some grant funding to get some of these repairs funded and open to the veterans. And I think if they're open even at the roadside park, if it's like they're accessible on the highway, then that's not a bad idea either.
I like that idea better. I feel like it would, more people would see it up there on the highway, driving by.
Is that in the same area where the dog park's supposed to go?
It could be, I'll bet there's plenty of room up there for both.
Yeah, I think there could be room for both up there.
There's some trees up there
Trees
that
up
need
there.
taken out, maybe cut them.
Yeah. But I think you could make it nice and be right there on the highway that we could see it. And I don't know, did they ever, because we had mentioned about doing the dog park back on the east side where the airport already has the chain link fence to where it would already be partially enclosed. Did they ever propose that or
I haven't heard anything.
never anything? So,
I kind of really like that idea better because to me, if it's down in that bottom, some people will never see it. But when people travel through, and we are getting a lot of campers staying for 1 and 2 nights during the summer. This summer there was a lot of them up there. Well, if they do have a dog, they're going to city a kennel deal over to the side there and have it marked well enough that they could let their dogs run over there and so forth. And anybody from town that wants to go up there can let their dogs run up there. So I kind of like the idea that dog run being over there in the back area than down in that hole, but that's my opinion. So
because you could easily put signage on the highway that says dog park, so people that have dogs that are looking for parks to stop to let their dogs out to go to the bathroom, exercise, whatever. If there is signage up there, I think it would be utilized even if it was on the backside.
Any risk of vandalism or anything, any more risk of vandalism, that sort of thing, I think.
We have vandalism at the bathrooms there. We have vandalism at the bathrooms in the band shell. And I don't know that it's any
What happens,
worse if it's right on the highway. It's well lit. I don't know. Scott and I had that conversation today. I'm like, I don't know that's any worse because we have vandalism there and here. So I think it's a wash there.
yeah,
Honestly.
we always go through spells. We have, knock on wood, we haven't had too much vandalism here lately, but we have had it, and it always seems like it runs in spells. We don't have anything for 3, 4, 5 years, and then all of a sudden we have a summer that
It's nonstop. I mean, we had vandalism at the signs down at the Riverwalk and Killer's Pond. I mean, it does just kind of go in cycles. I think maybe the bathrooms up there more where they were open where people were doing stuff
Right.
inside where they're not visible from the street, but I think if it's out there and it's more lit.
Did
I don't know.
JR ever get those quotes on the lighting for the park?
Forgot about that.
I will ask him about that. 'Cause he was looking at stuff with Stanton, right?
yeah, and if we had that lit up better up there, then that would deter vandalism too.
Or even down if we put it down in Saw Hill Park, because it's just, the parks are
Yeah.
dark. I mean, they really are dark. So,
All of our parks are on the dark side. The only thing that's lit up good is the swimming pool.
yeah.
Yeah, and we've had some complaints about that too.
Can't please everybody, yeah.
Yeah.
Too bright.
You don't please everybody, you know.
Put a dimmer switch on it, Larry.
We know what happens down at the old swimming pool in the summertime at night. People jump the fence and went swimming.
Yeah.
So, but
Did that really
anyway, I
happen?
think we've got some projects to work on, and I think what the VFW and the veterans are wanting to do is a fantastic project.
Yeah, I think everybody's in agreement here that we're willing to support it. It's just a matter of, we don't need to decide a specific spot tonight, and we need to probably check with the commissioners before we even move forward on the Saw Hill Park, but I don't know that the roadside park is in that bad of an idea either, being right there on the highway where people can be stopping to use the restrooms and,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I mean, it is nice that they want to put it downtown to where maybe people will turn off, but I don't know how much people,
The only thing I think is downtown is I like kids walking by and seeing it and forcing them to think and ask questions. And even if there's a concert, people walking by, there's nobody mind. But you get a lot more visibility up on the highway.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Six
I don't know
one way,
how
half
you, yeah,
dozen other,
how you
yeah.
weigh it out, like, there's pros to both.
Once you had signage up on both sides of town, like motorcycles and everything.
But we might want to consider on Fall Hill Park with the commissioners that anything new, like the Glenn Schweigert's artwork there, of course, that one piece has been in there for 50 years, and I call it the snake. I don't know what it's called, but, you know, everybody, his new artwork, and then if they get that German heritage bronze statue done, and then with the VFW, that maybe all that stuff should stay toward the west side of the park and not try to be up toward the Vansdale Fountain flag area. Just have a drawing line there that this is the area that we can use, and once we think it's too full, we can't put any more in there.
Yeah. I think we've got to take an approach that we need to make it aesthetically pleasing and not just start adding stuff left and right. Because we could, with all the statues and stuff they want to put in there and the artwork, that it could start getting, if it's not well thought out and planned of where to place it.
And I really did give that a thought, Joe, because I was thinking of the same place Paul was, and we went and looked at it, and I thought, well, this is a good place. You can look up and see the big flagpole. But then after Greg said that, I totally agreed with Greg that that was kind of going to not be in the best location.
We
And
found.
I know if we put it in the northeast corner, that's kind of hiding it. I think people would still find it and look at it. But yet, maybe we move everything clear to the west half of the park and say that's where that stuff's going.
Yes, but I don't know if you want too much stuff there. You know, it'd be nice to have it around the outskirts of the park to where it's visible from the street and people can get, especially with the Veterans Memorial, that it's accessible.
Yes.
But having it kind of on the outskirts possibly and leave the inner park to be a park, I don't know.
Yeah, I would think so.
But, all
But
right.
I guess we'll have some further discussion. Like we said, we got it okay with the county too and stuff. But no matter what, I think we all agree we want to see it happen.
Yep.
Yep.
I think so. So I think we are good on that. Like, I'll go to the commissioners on Friday, and Bob and I, and at least get their approval if we want to put it there, and then they can go ahead and go forward with getting funding, and we can determine a site at a later date.
Right.
So, all
Okay,
right.
that sounds good to me.
All righty. Anything else you want to stay on, or you want us to let you go and move on?
Is there anything else that you think I need to stay on for?
I don't think so. Barb Holsworth and Pam Boland didn't show up, so we're just on to old business, and
What's going on with the recycling center?
She has just concerns she's witnessed, like out-of-town people dropping off styrofoam. Her concerns aren't, they're not complaints about our employees or what's happening up there as far as that's concerned. They're concerns about what she's witnessed, what she's seen, and what she has some thoughts of what possibly could help, and she just wanted to talk to you guys.
We're also having some issues with out-of-town people bringing recycling in.
Yes.
And they are. They are. I talked to Billy. Is that his name again?
yeah. Billy Scoring? Yeah.
And anyway, well, there about a week and a half ago, I was up there talking to him, and he had a little concern. He said there's a lot of stuff coming from Yuma County. And so I was talking to Lila about that a little bit this morning. And I think really the only thing that we can probably do, because this is going to be too hard to police, is have a professionally built sign put up there, big enough that it's going to be, they can read it. And so when somebody from Colorado pulls up there and they're bringing their recycling stuff in there, have a metal box that they can put a donation in there. And hopefully they start putting a donation in there. And because like it costs all of us, I think it's $1.50 a month per household. And, well, actually the whole county is being charged that, even the county residents. But maybe people from Colorado would think, well, I do need to donate to that, so they might throw in $1 each time they use it or something. I think that's the only thing we could do, because we can't sit up there and police it. We'd have to have somebody up there all the time.
Yeah.
And do you guys know anything about the, Colby not taking the stuff anymore? This was brought up at the foundation meeting the other day, that Roger Jensen was gonna come talk at our foundation meeting, but he didn't show up, and there was something about that Colby was maybe not gonna be the drop-off place, yeah, and that they were maybe looking at something in Bird City, because, I don't, this was just hearsay because Roger wasn't there, so I didn't know if anybody else had heard anything, so.
I haven't heard that. Have you, Scott? Have you talked to
No,
Roger?
I think there's certain things they're not too happy about right now because they can't make any money out of it right now. And whether that'll ever turn back around, we don't know. You know, one time they were taking everything, but some of that stuff, it's hard for them to make any money, so I think they're not wanting to not accept certain things right now until the market picks up where they can peddle off to somewhere. So I have heard a little bit about that, but I haven't heard that they were completely shut down or anything like that. So
Do you want to check with Roger maybe?
I
Then
can
we
try
can
to check with Roger.
update at the next meeting as far as what his insights are being on the recycling board still?
Yeah, I need to call him anyway about something else, so I'll try to touch base with Roger on the recycling
Okay.
and have something at the next meeting. Okay, well, I'll just get off, and then that way you can go ahead and finish up your meeting.
Alrighty, sounds good. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, yep.
Scott.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Any more discussion? I think we're kind of good for the time being.
I do think that you're going to have a location in place before they'll be able to start applying for grant funds. You're going to have to know where it's going to go.
Probably think the first step is if the
Well,
commissioners
you
shoot it
find out.
down.
Yeah.
I mean that's the
You
first
find
step
out.
is.
I think you've got viable options either way. I mean,
Yeah.
There's pros to both locations for sure.
do you want to cut these copies or?
Can I
Sure.
actually take those to
Okay.
the commissioner meeting and then I'll
Yeah.
give them to you?
Yeah,
Like, actually, do you
I can
take that
scan
extra?
them
'Cause that
in.
way I've written on the back of mine, so. Yeah, I just have a couple of copies.
I went over and looked at it, and granted I came in late, but I know what Greg Kite's talking about as far as I honestly think from the east side of where the fountain's at, anything east of that, you're going to have a hard time making any kind of changes, just from the historical side of things. Improvements, yes, we can do that, but as far as making any physical changes, I think you're going to have a heck of a time getting that passed.
Well, I wouldn't anticipate anything happening with the fountain until at least $90 annually, $90,000 annually.
Yeah.
Probably 2022, 2023.
I just can't imagine getting rid of the fountain and putting the Veterans Memorial there. I mean,
Well,
that's iconic of what the park, you know.
Greg said that we couldn't do that anyway.
No, I don't think we
But
did
that was
anyway, but
that
I'm
was
just
their
saying.
original thought was to replace the
Yeah.
fountain, and I'm like,
I
I
think-
don't know about that. Yeah.
Because sandblasting and a redo of that city, you're probably gonna eat every bit of that $90,000.
It's gonna be a lot more than people
But
think.
Yeah.
I just think of the southwest corner where you have all the sidewalks coming in and you've got the pillars on this, that side of it. I don't know. With it being historical, what they would,
But didn't Scott say the seating and then the inside the bench hill and then the fountain?
or the bench and the pillars and then the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The seating first.
for
Then-
sure. And then we
then
could
the
go from
fountain.
either of
Then
those.
the fountain. Okay, so
pillars
maybe you could do
and-
it, yeah.
And then the inside, because the inside's got some neat.
Okay.
old
It does, but
fur, yeah.
you're talking major repairs inside. It's gonna have to be almost gutted to get it refurbished. That floor's gonna have to be replaced.
Well, I guess we'll just, maybe see what the commissioners say and then
Yeah.
go from there at the next meeting.
I don't think you have a good idea. I think the Bob and Adele Hanson Foundation would be smart.
Mm-hmm. Property cleanup, do we have anything?
Yeah, there are 2 properties that we've been working on, and one of them had their first appearance at municipal court on last Wednesday, October 21st. Prior to that, I had emailed JR for what needed to be done. He emailed me a list. The individual waived his right to an attorney, and I gave him a copy of JR's correspondence to me. I explained to him that he needs to coordinate with JR regarding when JR says that it's up to satisfaction. He kept saying, well, I'll call you, and I finally explained that I am counsel for the city, and so I will argue the city's position, but JR will tell me what the city's position is, and so he needs to coordinate with JR on that. What we did was we set that one for a bench trial on on municipal court day for December, which is the 15th of December. To kind of give a timeline of when things need to be, it was discussed that, significant progress has been made. One of the things is painting, with the weather being what it is. I don't know if that's going to get done by December. Obviously, we're going to be reasonable about it, but he did make a statement to the court that he hadn't had enough time. The first letter went out in March or April of 2019, and my letter went out in June, so as far as I'm concerned, he's had more than enough time to get it done. So the matter is set for a bench trial. I will coordinate with JR in late November to see what has been done and whether or not it actually needs to proceed. The other property, there was an issue with service. We discussed that somewhat last time. They have finally located that individual. I have had Janet prepare it to go out service by certified mail rather than personal service. We usually do personal service, but we have to pay to transfer it to the sheriff's office in Colorado, and it's $50 or $55 for personal service. And so if I can send it by a certified letter for $7, I'm going to do that rather than mailing it to the sheriff's office and paying $50. So it's going out in the mail tomorrow while I'm on that subject. We always CC city clerk and city superintendent, so I just thought I'd bring those to the meeting. But that's where we're at with the property cleanup. So one of them is underway. One of them is getting served. If we haven't heard in 15 days, once he gets served, I'll service, and then we may have to pay the $50 service fee to actually serve him with a summons, because if he fails to appear, then we issue a warrant. So we need to actually pay in that instance. But as far as the notice goes, I'm going to just do it via certified mail. That's property cleanup.
Project's pending, anything?
Did we ever get any hits on our property up there on Highland?
Haven't heard anything. I will say, I think I shared it. You guys might look. I put all the files that we've gotten about the sale shades out in a folder on the share. Did I share that with you guys yet?
I don't remember seeing it, but
We'll do it now. Just for you guys to look at your leisure. You'd asked about it. Maybe I'll share it tonight. Well, I might have to wait and do it later. It's not responding.
You talking about the cell shades for the band show?
Yeah, we had talked about it, and some folks weren't here when they talked about it before, so I just put all the drawings and stuff.
I've been seeing it on here every month when we meet and didn't know what it was about. So.
It's just the files that we've already got that you guys might want to see.
this one's up. No.
Here we go.
Anything else on projects pending? Street project, I know JR had mentioned that the second meeting in November, they will have the final plan for the streets. So we will have that second meeting in November. And building permits, Lila, I'm assuming nothing?
I don't have any.
And other than the streets, JR said that Water Electric was back in town today. They did get back today, start back in on the electrical project. Attorney report.
If you will direct your attention to ordinance 625, which has been shared on the Google Drive. I have modified subsection B pursuant to the fines as requested. Penalty of $25 for non-compliance, 91 through 120 days after the section becomes effective, $50 for non-compliance, 121 to 150 days after the section becomes effective, and $75 for non-compliance each 30 days after 150 days. I've included that a separate penalty shall be assessed for each period of non-compliance because it's not you owe 25, then an additional 25, then an additional 25. It's if 180 days afterwards you owe $150. And so that's how I have worded it. Lila has brought up 2 points in an email to me. I'd like to go through her. I guess go through her what she's raised, my looking into it, and my opinion on the matter. Lila sent me an email that she was not sure Chapter 16 is the best place for this. She let me know that Chapter 4, Section 202 says that the Uniform Building Code of 1994 is adopted. And then Section 502 has premises identification numbers, stating that approved numbers or addresses shall be provided for all new buildings in such a position as to be plainly visible and legible from the street or road fronting the property. So she said that it's, in her opinion, she thinks that it would fall under that chapter of the code. I see where with buildings we want that. However, if you look at the definition of building, I think it belongs in Chapter 16. One, as we looked at the other ordinances, that's where the city of Hiawatha has it. The other ones didn't put it in a section of their code. They just said, here's the ordinance, it's a new ordinance. Lila and I discussed this today. I don't like that at all because I think it needs to go somewhere. If we don't give it a section number, if we don't create a new section, then when we update the code book, it's currently the 2015 code book. If we do I think it's been 12 years, so if we do the 2027 code book, we don't want to have all these random ordinances that don't have somewhere. We need to have a chapter and an article and where it goes in the code. So I've put it at 16 to 12. It could be 4202A, which is underneath the adoption of the Uniform Building Code, or 4-219, which is at the end of the building section. I looked at putting it in Chapter 16, one, because that's where the other city that adopted it, or the model ordinance was. Two, it pertains to businesses and residential buildings. It does not pertain, the building code pertains to all structures that are erected. That is a shed, that is a garage, that is all buildings that are put up. That is a Quonset. Anything that is being constructed or modified is subject to that code, and a garage does not need an address. Because of the zoning regulations, it states this is required for businesses, this is required for residences. I think that it falls more applicably under that code, because if we put it under the building section, then I have to carve out what does and does not need a address. Because if it's all things under that code, the section applies to all buildings. And so I think it falls under 16. If the council wants it under Chapter 4, I am more than happy to defer to the council. I can change it. You can let me know what numbering you would like on it. But that was my reasoning of putting it in 16. I have no objections to putting it in 4. It just made more sense to me to put it in 16. I also, if you want to not put it anywhere, I will, of course, defer to the council, but that makes it really difficult for anyone to look up what it is they need. If they go to the table of contents and they look, and here's the table of contents for the code, and then we have 50 ordinances that aren't actually anywhere in the code. And so that's...
Which is what we would do when we
Right.
codify, we would
Right.
reorganize that, which we went through that shortly after I got on and you
Yeah,
started.
It was
2015.
2015
Yeah.
is the code book. And so
Yeah.
I know that we go through whenever we recodify, but in speaking with Lila, it hadn't been done for 12 years. And at the rate of...
I worked at Mike Day's, I went through 2 recodifyings, one when I worked at Mike Day's office and one when I first got on council. So
The one before this was 2003,
Okay.
Right.
and then
Yep.
this one was 2015.
Okay.
So every 12 years. And so there can be a lot of ordinances in 12 years that, I mean, if you're trying to look something up, if it doesn't have a code section, I mean, you're just looking through, okay, what other ordinances are there? And I think we do need to codify it. And so that's why I put, the ordinances that this chapter, this article is amended to add this section.
And I know because we all got assigned chapters when we recodified, and I got zoning and planning. And to me, like, the zoning's already there, like, it specifies where the residential district, where the
Mhm.
commercial district is, and the planning, as far as the planning board, that I don't even think is active, like from the county and this and that, like all these people that are on this planning board. To me, it makes more sense under the building, because we're specifying that structures and the addresses, which isn't that where the other one as far as new construction. But then I also found it ironic that we also discussed building permits in both zoning and planning and under buildings.
When Eric Harper was looking for emergency management, where he went was
The building,
Chapter 4 and then the Uniform Public Code. And
to me,
thus,
zoning and
that's what
planning
made,
is like,
why it
unless
made
we're
more sense
a
to
big
me. but-
city building new suburbs and that kind of stuff, zoning and planning to me is more kind of
The objective of this ordinance is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 9/10 of it is for 911 purposes, correct?
and for city employees, like,
Yeah.
and for the residents themselves, for
Yeah.
FedEx and UPS. I mean, it's just,
So like, Lone Star Storage, let's take that. Would that really need the address on there for
if
911?
Somebody got hurt up there.
somebody fell,
Yeah.
like,
least
they
one
were up
case.
there
Yeah.
in they were renting a storage unit, and they fell, got hurt, called 911, and we've got EMTs from
Yeah,
Birch
I see
City,
that.
Goodland, they don't know where Lone Star Storage
Right,
is.
right.
Giving them an address and the building clearly marks it. But to me,
Yeah.
that's more building than zoning. I mean, that's my thoughts on it. I mean, it's really not zoning, it's
Right.
more of a building, a requirement for putting up a structure, or having a structure.
Right.
That we're requiring numbers. I don't know.
But we can't say structure because structure includes garage, structure includes sheds, structure includes all of the things that sit on a property behind a house or in addition to an office or, I mean, structure is an erection of an erection of a enclosed
So let's
area.
say-
And so, I mean,
Scott
I have no
Schultz
qualms with putting it there. I just need to know.
Like Scott Schultz has his shop up there behind Eagle. It's a garage. We're still requiring that it's a structure that it's required to have a number on it, correct?
So does the garage where I park my car behind my house need a number on it?
It would be the same as your house, but if it's just a structure like a garage, there's like storage
There's no
units.
residence there.
There's no residence.
It's
I
just
mean, that's a
big-
On its
business.
own lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on
So, yeah, it should
But
have
you've
an
got
address
like
too.
the, underneath the water tower, you know,
Yeah.
those just garage buildings that are privately owned. Don't you want an address on there if something happens?
So does that, when we say or buildings, that's what we mean by that, right?
Or
In this
buildings.
ordinance. We're
Yes.
saying residents, commercial businesses, or
Buildings
buildings.
with, yeah.
That area where Tim Riley's putting grain bins up, didn't we have to give that an address?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I would think you'd want some sort of marker out there that, you know, whether it's on the grain bin or just like a marker on the road that if you've got, I mean, I don't know how you just say commercial or residential. I mean, obviously, if you have a house and a garage, your house number is going to cover your garage, but if you have just a lot with a garage or shop building on it, you're still going to want.
Like the
an
county,
address
when
on
they
it.
did all those markers, those blue markers, it just had their numbers on it, so they knew. It was for the ambulance and such, and delivery too, but, so they knew where to go.
But I thought that's kind of what, because, I mean, there are people that have shops, or, you know, in town that aren't commercial.
But that's not part of their houses.
Right.
So do we just want to leave it as is? Do you just want to leave it as is? Because, I mean, that to me says that the way it currently reads is all residences, commercial buildings, or buildings. Commercial businesses or buildings. I mean, that or buildings, I mean, if
Every
we wanted to,
standalone
if we wanted to get nitty gritty, a detached garage is a building.
Yeah.
Do you need to have, I mean,
Do we need to specify or buildings
not
not associated with a commercial, with a...
residential or not associated
How do
with.
you word that it's not...
Right,
it's
right,
not a-
that's, I mean, that's
We're
the,
gonna put a shed.
All
Right.
residences and attached buildings on the property, I mean, if you got a garage on your property, it's one address.
Mhm. But if you got, like, Scott's building
Yeah,
out
a
there,
shop.
it's
Yeah.
separate from his house, it's across the street.
That needs a separate
You're-
address.
so if I were to put, so if we were to modify it to all residences, commercial buildings, or buildings within the corporate limits of the city of St. Francis, if we put that, and then if we put all buildings ancillary or supplemental to a residence or commercial business located at the same address are exempt from this requirement.
Yeah,
I mean, because then because then that
Yeah.
specifies,
if it's on your...
I mean,
living
if it's
property.
ancillary to the residence or the business and it's on the same property,
Mhm.
Yeah.
We'll make your job any easier.
then it's, this is not, this is not difficult. This
But I think we want
very
shop
easy.
buildings, I mean, you go to the east
Right,
part of town,
but
there's all
that's-
sorts of Quonset and Chattanooga.
But that's
people
not,
addresses.
but that's not at the same address or on the
Correct.
same lot or on the same property.
But yeah, I'm with
It's-
you that we want addresses
Right.
there, but heaven forbid I have
Which
two
is why we'll
garages.
put
Do I
all-
need 3 addresses on my
All
lot?
secondary or ancillary buildings at the same address as a residence or commercial business are exempted from, are exempt from the numbering requirements.
Yeah.
Okay,
That
so,
sounds good.
And then that way, when they call into the city office, and, I mean, it's kind of, so you guys understand it too, you know, that way,
right.
yeah, if it's.
I mean, I just want to make sure, because if we
Building
say,
right behind your house,
If they have-
then no.
If they have utilities, will have an address.
Mhm.
I mean, they already have an established address, so it's just a matter
Yeah.
of putting the numbers up. But I still almost feel that it needs to be in the building section of the code book.
that's, okay.
I mean, I don't.
Is that
I mean,
section 4?
It is
That's
section
section
4.
four, yeah.
It's chapter 4, chapter 4, article 2. So then the question is, do you want to put it at the end of the building, which would be at the end of that article, which is, would be 4-219, or do you want to put it immediately after the adoption of the Uniform Building Code, which would be 4-202A?
I think that makes sense.
Where's the other one that all new structures have to have a number?
That's in the, well, what? All new structures. Oh,
Isn't that in our code somewhere? That
Yeah.
all new structures?
Yeah,
I didn't-
you are.
I looked, but I couldn't find it. I don't
well,
know.
Kale's, not Kale, sorry. Eric said it was.
And I saw it before, but I can't, I looked tonight to see where it was at, and I did not.
I wonder if that was,
But I mean, you go to the building section for building permits, and I think we're requiring buildings to have numbers. To me, that makes
Yeah,
more
that
sense,
makes
because zoning and planning to me is like the overall development of where the residential district is and the commercial, and
Right.
like I said, if you're a big city that has suburbs that are developing, that you would look to zoning and planning. For me, that's what I think
That's fine. I mean, I will defer to the council on where they want it. I work for you.
That sounds good.
Was
I
that-
just put it in 4, right?
Yeah, we'll put it in 4, but we need to know whether we're putting it... Well, I mean, I guess I didn't see a new building. I think that
It's in there somewhere.
I see where I saw it was that it was in the Uniform Building Code.
yeah.
It says it in the Uniform Building Code, but I don't know, because Section 502 of the Uniform Building Code says approved numbers or addresses shall be provided for all new buildings in such a position as to be plainly visible and legible. It's not in our code, it's in the building code, which has been adopted by our code.
Okay.
And so,
Which is 202.
which is 202.
Then that
And
makes
it
sense,
says
right?
that that approved numbers or addresses shall be provided for. So do we want to put it as 4-219 as the final section to this, or do we want to insert it as 4-202A, which comes after 4-202 where we incorporate the building code?
I think
202A?
What do you guys think?
Makes sense.
I mean, you've already just established that new structures have it, stick it in there. Yeah.
But it pertains to all, including existing.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so shall we wait to November to approve this so I can get it in the correct code section and add subsection C, which exempts secondary/ancillary buildings? Because that way, like once our storage, like the main office, if there's a main office, would have let's just say there was, like the main, one building would need it, but then the rest of the buildings
Two
wouldn't.
storage units or three storage units, at least one of them would have an
Right.
address on
Right.
all three of them, yeah. Yeah, we can wait till November anyway.
I mean, it won't go out in the bills until the 1st of December, so we're just pushing it out a month. Because our bills get mailed tomorrow. So
I've
it's
seen
either...
a couple of houses where, and I've seen a lot of houses in the cities doing this, to where they've got a pole or kind of like a pole coming up out of the ground, and it's like their address is numbers on it, stacked in, encased in it like a box on the pole, out by the curb. So they're not going to need to take those down, but they're just going to have to also have it on the house.
I can say, what Scott was saying about, there's a house up here on,
If you look at Freddie and Karen Pacheco's house, they just put a brand new one, and it looks really nice.
and I think according to what Scott was saying, that's fine, as long as it's visible from the street.
Okay.
It needs to have, so the way the statute, the way the ordinance is worded is that it shall have approved address numbers, building numbers, or approved building identification placed in a position that is plainly legible and visible from the street or road fronting the property.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it doesn't have to be affixed to the house. If you
Okay.
want to put a sign in your front yard, you can put a sign in your front yard. But it needs to be,
As long as it's not the curb painted that a
Right.
vehicle parked in front of it. you
That
can-
comes that
Right.
ways off.
As long as it doesn't have a longhorn on
What's that?
it. As long as it doesn't have a longhorn on it.
Yeah, well, that's another team that's let me down, so.
okay, so I will make that revision. My final,
Can I inject one
Yes.
thing here? Because it has to do with this. The letter that I had composed to go along with this, to send out with our utility bills, did you guys get a chance to look at that? And I may have to modify it slightly. Let me pull it up here.
I like the wording at the very bottom of it, especially
Why it's important.
why it's so important.
So if that looks okay to you guys, I'll just, if there's anything that needs to be changed based on how you reword the ordinance, I'll do that, but I'll keep the rest of it generally the same and send it out with the utility bills then. But not till we pass it, so that'll be next month.
okay. Is everybody, are we good on
Yeah.
that? Okay. If everybody could direct your attention to Chapter 5, Business Regulations. So just going through a quick overview of the table of contents. It talks about the license required, the application required, issuance, county residence, investigation and issuance, etc. We had been discussing transient vendors, and the minutes of the meeting, we had been discussing transient vendors. Transient vendors are defined in section 5-101. 5-101 C defines canvasser or solicitor, D defines peddler, and E defines transient merchant. And we had been talking about transient merchant, but the problem with making a modification for transient merchant is that all of the other sections pertain to the activities defined in 5-102 or 5-101. And so all of the license fee, everything else, also pertains to canvassers, solicitors, and peddlers. And because we were discussing transient merchants, and Scott had made the comment when we were discussing everything being due in January and not prorating it, I think that should be true for all of them, not just transient vendors, that he would like to see that. I didn't know, if I'm going to pull transient vendors out of this and just do it for transient vendors, I'm going to need to redo 101 and then do a new section so that we're pulling the definition of transient vendor out of 101 and putting it in its own section, defining it, and then putting the regulations on it and the application permits and fees. If I'm going to be going through this, would the council just like me to revise this section stating that the application for canvassers and peddlers and solicitors is also due in January? There'll be no proration. It's $10 per event or this permit for a year. I mean, at the point that I'm going in and redoing this, does council want me to redo this section? Because I can't just say, this is the fee for transient vendors, because then we'll have conflicting statutes governing, because 102 through 106 refer back to 101 under Chapter 5. And so I guess I'm...
I told Lauren I thought that the intent was the fee was across the board for all of those things.
I did too.
Yeah, I think we kind of.
It was just my minutes were inaccurate.
Pretty,
I thought we were just,
we could remember.
Yeah.
Because when we were looking into it, we were looking into transient vendors. And then Scott had said he'd like to see it the same for all of it. And then we discussed, if they live out of the county, if they live in the county. But then when I saw the minutes, it says regarding transient vendors. And so before I went wading through the ordinances and redoing them, I mean, it's going to be not a lot of drafting, but I mean, it's going to need amendment. And so I just want to verify that I'm doing it. The council wants me to do it for all definitions across the board.
Yep.
And put in the requirement of it's due in January. There's no proration.
Yep.
That's effective, and we will have. I'm assuming it will be a future effective date of the end of the year this year. So their licenses are good through the end of the year this year, and then come January 1 of next year, they need to apply. And I will. Okay, so I will get that drafted by the next city council meeting, so we can run it for publication, so that it can go live.
And what did we say? The cost is the cost, regardless if they sign up in January or June? Is that how we said it?
It's 75, right. There's no proration.
Right.
It's not to be prorated.
Okay.
It is $75 a year or $10 a day. So if they're only going to do it for 3 days, then they can do that. But if they're a non-resident, then they need to apply for, they need to do the $25 for the background check. So I will go through and I will revise the article to match with what has been discussed. And I wanted to clarify before I started going through it.
That's easier for you anyway.
So, yeah, I mean, yes. Yeah, it is. Because then we can leave 101 as it is.
Right.
As opposed to having to pull
Right.
that out and do its own.
No.
Yeah.
I think that was the intent, to keep them all
Okay.
the same.
I just wanted to make sure, because the conversation up till that point had been, like I said, had been specifically transient vendors. And I didn't know if when Scott said, I'd like to see them all be the same, if that was modify it for all of them. Or, and I guess I should have clarified then, but I was like, oh, we're still on transient vendors. So, okay. That was what I had. I would like to request 5 minutes of executive session for an update on update regarding litigation with council members present.
Any questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the attorney report?
So moved.
Moved by Cale, second by David. All in favor? Clerk report.
I don't have very much.
What happened to your 20 items?
I had 20.
It's getting late. Out on the share, you probably saw them. We have a request from the Cheyenne County Hospital. Carol Sloper wrote it. They're just asking for a letter of support, and I have written a letter of support similar to the one we did last year. They ask for this every year. Just would like the council's approval for the mayor to sign that letter of support. That's for not the transportation van that the county has, but this is the one that the hospital has, mainly for transporting elderly folks to their medical appointments and stuff like that. And they're just asking for a letter.
If I may make one note, the phrase is first come, first served, not first come, first serve. So it will need a D.
I will change that. I actually took that right from Carol's email, so I will change that. Okay. Motion for the mayor to sign that.
Second.
Moved by Carol, second by Larry, all in favor? Motion passed.
And then the second one is for all the council to sign. This is, we budget the $5,500 every year for the transportation van, and this is something that the Department of Transportation requires a letter of commitment from the council that we're actually committing those funds. So that's what that is. So a motion for that, and then everybody needs to sign it.
Sign the letter quick before David signs it. Moved by Gail.
Second.
Second by Larry. All right, you're good.
This year, with COVID, everything's virtual. I had not actually intended to go to the Clerk Academy this year because I didn't want to travel, but it's virtual and it's only 2 days. I'd very much like to attend. It's $250 for 2 days of classes, November 12th and 13th.
Take it out of your payment, it's okay.
Oh, well. Yeah, she's harsh.
No, I think everybody, yeah.
It'll be okay. There's some good
I
classes.
was going to say, where it's virtual, to not have the expensive traveling.
Travel, food, lodging, yeah, all that stuff. So
Do you
that's
want us to
a
pay for
bargain.
your food?
I was going to say, do you want me to bring
Yes.
you Subway?
Yes, I would. I would like it catered. And then I need to request, Jen's anniversary is the 29th of October, and she has 31 hours of vacation that she would like to carry over with your motion to approve that.
So moved.
Moved by Gail, second by Dara. All in favor?
And the only other thing, we are going to need to amend the 2020 budget. I know I've mentioned this before, but it's going to have to happen here pretty quickly. I'll be getting with Amanda. The only thing that I see that we're probably going to have to amend is that sales tax fund, because when we did our 2020 budget, we didn't know we were going to have that sales tax, so the fund didn't exist. None of that existed. So we're going to have to amend it so that we can move that money and be able to use it. So just a heads up that that'll happen, but it should be pretty quick, and Angela will help us with that. And so that's all I have.
Motion to approve the budget report. Moved by David. Second by Dara. All in favor? All right. Council comments. David. Kale?
Nothing here.
Dara? No. Larry?
No.
All right. I don't have anything. So, is there a motion to go into executive session for 5 minutes for pending litigation?
I move that we go into executive session for pending litigation with council members and the attorney, city attorney, coming out at 8:38. 8:33. I'm sorry. Can't add. Is that all you need?
Second.
Second.
All in favor? All right, we are out of executive session and no decisions were made. Is there any other business or a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Then you want, oh, no, she already
Oh.
approved it, yeah. For Jen.
Oh, yes,
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I was thinking,
That was not executive
Yeah.
session. No, so Kale, Dara.
okay.
Yep.
Like, no, me.
Yeah.
Maybe David, I don't know.